Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Assessing Student Understanding with Canvas Quizzes. We are the technology training team, and for all your training needs, visit our website at bit.ly/T3PGCPS. Today, we will be using WebEx to conduct our virtual session. As you came into the meeting, you notice that your mute button is locked, so you will not be able to unmute today. Video is not required, so you can turn it off if you do not want to be on video. Throughout today's session, we will be using the reactions button, and I see some of you have already found it today. So if you want to give it a test out, you can find that little smiley face in your WebEx panel and just let us know how you're feeling on this Tuesday afternoon. Happy faces and some thumbs up. Wonderful. All excited to learn about Canvas quizzes. We'll also be utilizing the Q&A today. So if you have questions throughout today's session, please put them in the Q&A, and we have lots of members of the Canvas team that are happy to answer them for you. And if you don't see the Q&A, you may have to select these three dots, and that three dots will allow you to pull up the Q&A. Just to note that this session is being recorded for training purposes. And again, we'd like to welcome all of you to Assessing Student Understanding with Canvas Quizzes, presented by the Technology Training Team. We are your facilitators today. My name is Clarissa Burton, and I'm joined here with Monica Jenkins, Kimberly Robertson, Marianne Santos, Jake Volschel, Milton Hayward, Patrick Pierre-Louis, and Ronlyn Dandy. So we are all here to support you today. So if you have any questions, please add them into the Q&A, and we will be happy to support you. Today we will be working together, so we just ask you to stay focused. We will be doing a we do, you do. So we're going to be showing you some things to do in Canvas, and then we're going to be asking you to try it out in practice. So we really want you to be hands-on here. We will be going between the WebEx screen and Canvas. So we will mention, come back to WebEx and watch here with us, and then let's go into Canvas and practice. So we will be going back between the two windows. And then, of course, using our WebEx tools, make sure when we say, hey, give us a reaction, that you let us know how you're doing or ask questions when you have them. Okay, and check out chat. We will be posting some links at the beginning of the session and towards the end, so you're going to want to access chat for those. So today's plan is we're going to be designing a Canvas quiz. We're going to show you what quizzes looks like on the student side, and then we're going to dive in and how to get started with some basic quiz questions and reviewing what the quiz looks like after the students have completed it, giving feedback and updating their settings. So let's get started. So today, prior to today's session, we did ask that you'd sign into Canvas first, and you opened up a Sandbox. So if you have not done those things, we will be putting a handout in chat so that you have access to building a Sandbox. We recommend the Sandbox so that you have a place to kind of play around and get to know Canvas a little bit without having it be a published course. So a Sandbox is just a course for you to practice with the tools, adding assignments before you actually do it in a live published course. So again, that handout has been put into chat. I'll go ahead and open it up for you real quick. You may be prompted to press continue. And when you come into this tutorial, it's going to talk to you about logging into Canvas and then the first steps in creating a sandbox. So those are those two recommendations that we had prior to the class today. All right. So hopefully you had time to make that sandbox prior to today. And let's dive into what is Canvas quizzes. So many of you may be familiar with Google Forms. Google Forms is what we were using inside Google Classroom to collect data and have that data entered into the Google Classroom gradebook. Well, Canvas quizzes is similar to that, except there's more features. So as I talk about the different types of question types you're going to be able to create in Canvas, it has a lot more opportunities for our students to succeed than Google Forms allows you to do. Just some things at the top, Canvas quizzes allows for multiple question types. Your students have access to that immersive reader, so if they need accommodations and things read to them, that immersive reader is available. Auto grading, which we all know and love, which saves us so much time, is that auto grading feature. There's an option to moderate, which Jake will take you through at the end to show you a little bit about moderation or moderating the quizzes. You have live data, and then you can copy a quiz to multiple classes. So if you teach reading language arts to multiple sections, you can continually copy that quiz to the other sections as needed. But what's really great are the many different types of quizzes that you have access to within inside Canvas quizzes. So categorization is a question that requires students to place answers in the correct categories. So if you need students to move things around and categorize things, that is a great question for you. Essay questions are just a simple student response where students would respond back to a question asked. File uploads where you require students to add in information by uploading a file. Fill in the blank where they enter in a missing word from a statement. You have the ability to add a formula question. So for my math teachers out there, they do have the formula option. Hotspotting is super cool, especially for my primary teachers, where you have students, the students would pick from an image or a hotspot to identify the correct answer. Matching, where students have a list of questions and they're going to match the answers. Multiple choice, which you should be familiar with, our ABCD answers. Multiple answers, where you're going to have students be able to choose multiple correct answers. So it could be A and B or A and C. Numeric is a question where students, the question accepts all answers. The students can put in any type of answer, but the instructors can only use numbers for it to be accepted. So that the numeric question will require students to answer with a number. Ordering is putting things in a specific order, and then true or false. And the last piece down at the bottom, this allows for you to add in text and a question at the same time. So kind of similar to the standardized testing format where the students have reading over on the right or on the left, over on the left, and then they have questions on the right. So you'd have that those two things happening at once. So a really cool feature you have access to down there. All right, so what are some of benefits? And I kind of looked at these as I was talking through the questions, but our students have ability to access some specific accessibility features. You can add in a calculator. You have the immersive reader where the text can be read to them. They're also interactive, where our students can use the hotspot to interact. They have the matching ability, as well as that categorization, and I'll show you it in a minute. And then that instant feedback. So having those instant results right away for the students to know exactly how they're doing and how they did on the assessment. All right. So let's go ahead and look at a student sample quiz. Let's see what it looks like for the student side, why you would want to do this with your students, and what they would have access to. So we're going to look here, and I'm going to go ahead into my dashboard and pull up a student sample, and I'm actually going to go into student view. So in student view, students would be able to go to modules or quizzes and see any of the assessments that you've posted. From here, they would select the quiz. So we did Encanto trivia just for fun. There is a required due date. Due dates need to be within the quarter that you are giving the assessment. You'll notice in the instructions, they have a watch and then a link to a video. So you have the ability to include links in the instructions for a quiz. And I did already start this once, so I'm going to press resume. And then we'll go through the question types. So the first question you'll see, who is the main character? And forgive me because I know I'm not going to get these answers right. But you're going to select the multiple choice answer, so you could only pick one for this question. And then the next question, what are the names of the triplets? So you have multiple answers here. I don't remember. And then as you go down, so then we have a matching question. So the students would have to match superpower with the character. So I know this one. And you would continue going down the list. I need to go back and watch this video. So that's matching, where you'd have one word on the other and they'd have to find the match. You have your fill in the blank. So what was her power? The ability to order, so ordering the questions here. Oops. We have a sorting, so you have that categorization where they see the students are dragging in the answers. And then lastly, we have a hotspot, where in the hotspot, if I scroll down, you'll see there is a question here. And then below that, you would pick which of the images is correct. So what is Bruno's power? And then we're going to click on that power that he'd have. You'll see that hotspot appears. And then the student selects submit. Okay, so I'm going to select submit. It will let you know, see that automatic feedback on how you did. So I did not do really well. I need to go back and take that again. But you got the idea of what the results you get. You see your percentage, your points, and how long it took you to do it. So I'm going to go ahead and leave student view. And then we're going to go ahead and we're going to get started here in Canvas quizzes and take you through getting set up. And then once we're all set up with our quiz, then we're going to move into building the quiz out with Marianne. So what I'm going to do is we're going to look here at creating a quiz. So the first thing we always recommend is that you start with a module. We use the modules because it helps you stay organized and keep content in specific sections. From there, we're going to complete the details of the assignment and select build. So here in WebEx, I'm going to take you through how to do that in Canvas, and then I'm going to give you time to create those first few steps before moving on to the next section. So our recommendation is that you open up your Sandbox. So I'm going to go to my Sandbox here, Sandbox for new features. And then I'm going to scroll down and I'm going to choose the option on the left for modules. Okay, so we've opened up our Sandbox and then we've chosen modules. So from here, I'm going to go over and I'm going to select the plus sign to add in my module. So I do have a sample module for Canvas quizzes. I'm going to select the plus sign to add a new one. So next to the plus sign, we're going to hit the drop down arrow. So you'll see it automatically says add assignment. This isn't going to be an assignment, so I'm going to select the drop down and I'm going to choose to make it a quiz. When we do that, you'll see your other quizzes you've created for the course will populate. And then we're going to choose Create Quiz. So again, I'm going to go back. I've inside my modules, I've selected the plus sign to add an assignment. I've selected the drop down arrow and chosen to make this a quiz. I've chosen Create Quiz and selected New Quiz. So there is Classic Quiz that is turned on, but you do want to be using new quizzes. Okay, this is a new improved interface. So when you are setting up Canvas quizzes, you want to make sure you're selecting new quizzes. From here, we're going to create a quiz name. So this is going to be a Harry Potter quiz. And then we're going to choose Add Item. So you'll see that pops up in my modules. Once you've created those basic outlines of what you want to create, you're going to actually click on the title name. So I'm going to click on Harry Potter Quiz. And these are the details I'm going to begin to fill out. So the title's already done for us. We're going to assign a point value. So I'm going to make it out of 100. I'm going to scroll down. Everything else I'm going to leave the same. It is an assessment. I'm going to keep it as points. External tool we leave alone. And then you have the option to assign. So if you differentiate your quizzes or assignment or assessments, you can choose people in that course that are only going to receive this copy of the quiz or this copy of the assessment. So you do have that option, and you would just type their names here in this box. then you want to assign a due date. So the due date is going to associate this quiz with which quarter it's going to go in. So right now we're at the end of Q2. So we don't have too many options with dates. We're either going to pick today or tomorrow that it would be due. But if this was a third quarter quiz, then you'd want to make sure that the due date is within that third quarter. So it's very important that you assign a due date when you are creating assignments or quizzes. So I'm just going to choose the second for now. And then I'm going to choose the option to build. And once you've completed all of the steps, your screen should look like this, and that means you're ready to move on to the next section. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put up the directions. We're going to give you 5 minutes of build time. So we're going to give you 5 minutes of build time here. And then you will come back together and we'll move on to the next step. And again, Q&A is open if you have any questions. All right, so we have about 2 minutes left to begin creating the beginning parts of the assignment. So I'm going to put those back up, those directions right up on the screen. So again, you're creating a quiz from a module. You're entering in the assignment details, so the points and the due date, and selecting to build. So for submission type, we leave that alone. So I'm going to return back here and open up that quiz again. So submission type, you'll notice it's grayed out. You can't do anything because we are creating a quiz, not an assignment, that is going to already be filled in for you. Okay, so submission type, we do not touch. You'll notice it is grayed out. You don't have the option to change it. All right, so time is up. I'm just going to answer the quick question in Q&A, and then we'll get ready to move to the next section. So the difference between creating a quiz here inside Canvas and one outside of Canvas. So these results are going to go right into the Canvas gradebook. Anything you create outside of Canvas, if you create a Google form, those results are not going to go inside the Canvas gradebook. They're going to go to Google Forms. So the benefits here is that all the reports and all that data is going to go here inside of Canvas. You're also going to have that ability for when parents are invited, they're going to be able to see that data live as well. Okay, so they have the two benefits there. You have that automatic grading right inside of the Canvas gradebook, and then as well as that, we'll have that family feature turned on. All right, so let's see how you did with your reactions, just getting that quiz set up. Everyone should be on a screen that looks similar to mine. So give me a reaction if you were able to create that quiz through a module and just filling out those assignment details. Awesome. Looks like everyone has done a wonderful job and are ready to get started with Canvas quizzes. And I'm going to pass it over to Marianne, who's going to take you through how to add in questions to make this interactive.
All right. So now we're going to be building a quiz now that we've started creating it. And these are the steps that I'm going to be going over, but essentially you'll be clicking on the plus button. You're going to select the question type you want and then include the following. So there's an option for question title, which is optional, your question, the answer choices, and there's additional options, which I will talk about. Point value for that specific question, and then done. Just note that each question type has different requirements, and it kind of tells you as you choose whatever question type you choose, like what information is needed. So I'm going to come over here, and I'm going to start off from where Clarissa left off. So we had this Harry Potter quiz. You still have the option to edit and change the title if you wanted to by clicking on the pencil. I'm going to keep this title for now. Excuse me. Let me see if I can fix my audio. There we go. And then below that, you can put instructions. So like the Encanto quiz, we had instructions in here. To include instructions, you're just going to select the pencil. And then from here, they have a little editing toolbox that you can use to put in your instructions. So for example, reread the Harry Potter series, answer the following questions. So that could be possible instructions that you can have overall for your students. This is just instructions for the whole entire quiz. You can still use the different tools on here if you wanted to edit the text. So for example, if I want to make this one bold, I can change the alignment and change the font size if I wanted to, include a table if I needed, or some media to be included right here within the instructions. So from there, I'm going to go ahead and click done. And now I have instructions. So we have the title and the instructions. And to add questions, you're going to select this little blue plus sign. When I click on it, you have all the different options that we have. Now, there are many different question types, but we're not going to have time to go over all of them. So I'm just going to be showing just 3 simple ones. And I'm going to give you the time to go ahead and try some of the ones that you may be interested in. The first one, of course, will be multiple choice. This is our generic A, B, C, D kind of choice. So again, to add the question, you're going to click the plus sign and select multiple choice. Then it has all the different options that you need to include. The first thing it has is question title. This part is optional. Sometimes you may just want your questions to be numbered. So you have number 1, number 2, and on, or you can include a question title. Sometimes people might want to put here, if it was a 3-part question, you could say this one is part 1. Or if you wanted to let your students know that this is a multiple choice question, you can choose, right, multiple choice. And another way you can title it is if, excuse me, if you wanted to let the students know, like, this one is covering this specific standard or a common core state standard. That's something you can title, but this one's completely optional. The part that you'll need is the question stem. So this will be the question that you're asking. So this one's multiple choice. So I could say, who is the author of the Harry Potter series? And I can still use the toolbar to edit the look of how I want this question to look. And then below it, I can type in the answer choices. So answer choices that I can choose I can put in is Shakespeare. Oops, can't type. And then I can click the next box over and put in Dan Gutman. I can make the third choice J.K. Rowling. And I'll put one more choice, Theodore Geisel. And you'll notice here that there's these little buttons next to it. This is where you're going to choose and let Canvas Quiz know which one is the answer. Right now I have it as Shakespeare, but I can select J.K. Rowling instead if I wanted to. So this will be the answer choice. And I can always go back and edit if I realize that this is spelled wrong. I can fix it. And you also have an option if you wanted to include images. So just for this example, I'm going to resize my screen. If I wanted to include an image of Shakespeare, I can select upload media. I can drag and drop, include audio or a video. For this example, I am going to use this folder that I have saved on my computer. I can include an image of Shakespeare. Select import. And now they added an image of Shakespeare. I'm going to do it again and show another way. To import an image, I can select browse because it's saved on my computer. And this one is Dan Gutman. Select open, then select import. And then I can do that for each answer choice. So I went out of it. So when you create a multiple choice question, you have an option to put a question title, put in the question, the answer choices, and select the answer for that question. It does default to 4 choices, but if you realize that you only want to have 3 choices, you can click the delete, the trash can for each option. Or if you want to add more, you can click the plus answer to add another answer choice. So you're not limited to just 4. I'm just going to delete that one for now. Below that are options. So if it was a math question, you can give them an option to have an on-screen calculator. You can vary the points by their answer. So if you want to give them partial credit for choosing one answer versus another, you could. And you also have an option for shuffle choices. So these are things that you can choose on a question by question basis. Below that is align to outcomes and item banking. We are not currently using that, so you can leave those two alone. But below that is point value. So you can choose for this questions to be specifically 1 point, or you can increase it by how many points you want it to. And then when you're done, you can click done. And here you'll see your first question. And then you can keep adding by clicking the plus sign again. And I'm going to show another question type. A popular one would be matching. Again, each question type has a different requirements. You can choose to put a question title, but I'm going to leave that one blank. And this question could be match the following, excuse me, the following Hogwarts house with their characteristics. Then on the left side will be your question or what you want it to be. It doesn't necessarily have to be a question. It could be a sentence frame or a vocabulary word if you wanted to. So for example, we have Gryffindor, Ravenclaw, Hufflepuff, for some reason I cannot type today. And the last one is Slytherin. Instead of choosing a different answer choice, what are the possible answers for each one? You'll just type in what the answer is going to be. So for example, Gryffindor is known to be brave. Ravenclaw is known to be wise. Hufflepuff is kind. And then Slytherin is, excuse me, resourceful. Again, you have an option to delete those answer choices and questions or add another pair if you wanted to include more. I'm going to click delete for that one. And you can even include a distractor, so something, an answer choice that they will not use at all. And again, they have an option for show on screen calculator, shuffle questions, and you have an option for this one to give partial credit or exact match. So partial credit means that if they got 2 of them right, they'll get credit for that. Or exact match means they have to have all 4 correct. So something I would do would be make this 4 points. So if they got 1 correct, they'll get 1 out of 4 points. If they get 3 correct, they'll get 3 out of 4 if you decide to choose partial credit. And then I'm going to go ahead and click done. So this is what it would look like for the students. They will select the drop down. Oops, sorry, it's just a preview. But this is what the answers are. And they will just select from the drop down of all the options that they have. One more that I'm going to show for this demonstration is fill in the blank. So here's an option that says fill in the blank. If I scroll down, it's going to ask me to put in the question stem. And there's a direction right here. It says type a statement, select the text, and press enter to create a new blank. So I'm going to put here, Harry Potter is the boy who lived. I'm going to select the text that I want, and I'm going to click enter. Oops, what happened? My bad. Here, the statement is the boy who lived. Enter. My keyboard just got disconnected. There we go. So I typed it in, selected the text, and then click enter. So that will be what I would, this will show up down here. So I can have an option where it will open entry where they will have to type it in. I can make it as a drop down or a word bank. So I'm going to make this as a drop down as an option. So because this one's a lot easier to visualize. So for example, the answer is the boy who lived. And I can add distractors, for example, is Tom Riddle, or is Harry Potter is a muggle. Okay, then you can choose which one is the right answer. So of course it's the boy who lived. And then I'm going to scroll. My mouse is very sensitive. Okay, so and then again you can have the options for a show on-screen calculator, of course, if it was a math one. So I'm just going to click on this because someone did ask what it is. So when you click on it, there's an option for a basic calculator or a scientific calculator. So I will put it in preview so you could see what that would look like. So I'm going to click done for this one. And then for this one, I'm going to show scientific so you could see what it would look like. Okay, so now I just showed 3 different types of questions. I'm going to give you time to see what it would look like, but I'm going to select preview on the top right so you could see. So this is what it will look like for the students. Here's the multiple choice. Here is the matching. So they would choose which one is which. And then Harry Potter is, and then they will select from the drop down what the answer is. For the calculator, it'll be on the corner of each question. So this one I chose scientific calendar, and this is what it will look like for the students. Close out of that. And then this one is the standard one calculator. So that's what it would look like for the students. I'm going to exit preview. And anytime you need to go back and edit, you'll just find that question and click on the pencil if you wanted to, or delete it completely if you realize you don't want it, and duplicate that question so you don't have to start it from scratch. All right, so now I'm going to come back to the presentation here. Oops. And give you this time right now to go ahead and try out at least 3 different question types. When you're done, you're going to select return, which I forgot to show here. So I'm going to pretend that I'm done. And I'm going to select return. And it takes me back to my module where I created it. And if I click on it, I can preview all of the information. And this is where if I'm ready, my quiz is ready for my students, I will select save and publish. Okay. So here are the directions. I'll give you 5 minutes to go ahead and try out making different types of questions. So someone asked, how do you add the picture to the question? So I'm going to come back here to the quiz. I'm going to select build again because I've already put it in. Select edit. If you select where your question is, so for example, who is the author of the Harry Potter series? If I select that, I get this toolbar. And if you wanted to include an image for the question, you can select the little mountain icon. It says upload image. So if you want, instead of the answer choices, you can include images from here. You must have the picture yourself on your device if you wanted to upload it into the quiz. Just want to let you know this is a 1-minute reminder. And in about 1 minute, I'm going to share your reaction on how this activity went for you. So time is up, but someone asked, how can I match pictures with words? So the match option in Canvas, you'll notice here you can only type in text only. So there's no option to do an image and a, what's the word? Excuse me. There's no option to do pictures here, but there is an option on this, only option to do text. But something that would be helpful is if you want to do is hotspotting. So I'm gonna show this one really quick since we have time. I'm gonna click the plus one and I'm gonna select hotspot. And then with hotspot, it's where you have an image and the students click anywhere on that image in order for them to respond to your question. So I'm going to do a Harry Potter one here for an example. So I could say, which house did Harry Potter get sorted in? And I just so happen to have an image here because I was practicing it. I'm going to re-emphasize this. And it's going to ask you to drag and drop an image. So I have an image here that I created. So you do need to have an image ready that you want your students to interact with. So here is, which house did Harry Potter get sorted in? And I created this image. It's just 4 parts to it: Gryffindor, Ravenclaw, Hufflepuff, Slytherin. From here, you'll choose what hotspot shape you want. So if you want it to be a square, a oval, or a polygon, and I'm going to show you what that means. Because mine is more rectangular, if I click square, it's going to ask me where do I want my students to select on the image in order for them to get a correct answer. So the answer to which house did Harry Potter get sorted in is Gryffindor. With my mouse, you'll notice that it has a plus sign when I'm over the image. I can click and drag to let Canvas know that if my students click anywhere in here, that is a correct answer. If they don't click in the area that I chose, it will be wrong. And then below that, I have all these other options. So I'm going to click done and select preview to show. Scroll down here. So it says, which house did Harry Potter get sorted in? The students will click anywhere on the picture that that they think the answer is. So if you want to do a picture is which one is the dog, you can have pictures here, and then they can choose which one is the dog, and so on. So the answer here would be Gryffindor. Click submit. I'm just going to go ahead and click submit for there. And then you could see that if they clicked within this area, it's considered correct. If they clicked outside of it, it's considered wrong. So I'm going to go back again and repeat that just one more time because I did kind of that a little fast. So I'm going to remove this. I'm going to click the plus sign, select hotspot, type in my question. So, which house did Harry Potter get sorted in? I'm going to upload an image that I want to use. So I did a drag and drop, but I'll do browse for this one. Find the image from my computer. Select open. And then this time, instead of a rectangle, I'm going to just use oval. So this is where you have to be careful because of the way your images are. If I only wanted them to select this area, if they go anywhere outside of it, it will be considered wrong. So that is an option for you to do for your students. Select the shape you want to use, then drag over the area that you will accept your students to respond to that image. And then click done. Okay, so that is hotspotting. I think it's also very helpful for younger students, especially primary, when you have an image and you want them to select a part of an image and to go with your question. Excuse me. And now I'm going to be handing it over. Oh, sorry. If you can react on how that went for you. I did go into hotspotting. How did creating different types of questions go for you? If you can react, how that went. And then I'll move it over to Jake, who will talk more about once you've created your quiz and your students start taking it. Awesome. Okay, so now I'm going to hand it over to Jake, who is going to talk more about settings and moderating your quiz.
All right, hello everyone. Let me move some windows out of the way. See if this helps. So, hopefully everyone can hear me okay. What we're going to take a look at now are settings and moderating. So moderating meaning what can I do with students once they have started taking their quiz? Someone had asked the question just a moment ago, can they retake a quiz? The short answer is yes. The longer answer is it depends on what you do in your settings. So let's take a look at what some of those settings are. So the first thing that you're going to want to do is build your quiz. So once your quiz is built, you're then going to have an option to take a look at settings. So quick screenshot here, and then we'll go and we'll take a look at what it looks like live. You're going to click on the settings tab. You're also going to have settings, reports, moderate. So if you look at the image on the right, build settings, reports, and moderate. Settings are the ones that let you identify a lot of different aspects for elements of the quiz when you go to deliver the quiz. Keep in mind, if students have already attempted the assessment, be cautious when you make changes to the settings. So you want to build your quiz, make your changes in the settings, and then add it and publish it for students to have access to. So there's a lot of options to choose from. The only one that we really want you to not deal with at all is filter IP addresses, but everything else you have access to use. We have a screenshot here for you to be able to see what that looks like. So we're going to take a look at a quick quiz. This is one that I built already. And we'll talk about why we've switched quizzes in a little bit when we take a look at our reports. So I'm going to click on build. Not that I need to build the quiz has already been built. You can see I have several different questions here, several different types. Up at the top, a couple things to take a look at: build settings, reports, and moderate. One of the things to point out on the left-hand side, these are each of the pages of the quiz. If I hit this arrow at the very top, slide it over, and I can reorder my questions. I can get a preview of the questions along the way. What we're going to take a look at now are your settings. A lot of these are self-explanatory, so I'm not going to go into great detail, but a couple of them I want to kind of highlight for you. So for shuffling questions, this will shuffle the order of the questions. I can shuffle answers, that'll shuffle the order of the answers. Keep in mind, depending on the number of questions, every student won't have a unique set of questions. It depends on the number of questions and the number of students that are participating. Do you want them to answer one question at a time? If I turn that off, if I turn it on, you also have the option to allow backtracking. Do you want a student to progress forward at all times? Can they go back and forth? Do you want to require a student access code? So here's the quiz, but in order to take it, you need to have a code. In this scenario, I went ahead and I plugged in a code for my quiz. It's all based on superheroes. And then if I want to see that code for myself, if I'd forgotten it, I can simply turn it on so I know what the code is. Leave it blank if you want no access. So I'm going to turn that back off now. Time limit. How long do I want to provide them for the quiz? How long to take the quiz? Filter IP address. Again, we said just skip that one. Allow calculator. There's two different types of calculators, and we'll see this in the slide. Tried to build everything on the slides for you. There's a basic calculator with basic functions, or you can choose a scientific calculator, which by its name gives you more detailed information. Also, allowing multiple attempts. How many times do you want to allow students to retake? Do I want to keep the highest score, the average, the latest, or the first? So keep in mind, and I'll show you this when we look at our reports, if I choose highest, I will still see multiple attempts that were made by a student, and I can see how they progressed on moving forward. I can adjust the attempts to unlimited, take it as many times as you want, or I can limit it, and I changed this to 3 myself. And then I can require time between attempts. So if I'm doing this from the standpoint of take it, if you didn't do well, you can retake it, but you need to review. I may require time between and say that you can take it in 2 more days. So again, these are just options that you have. The last one I think is kind of beneficial. Marianne showed you on her example, and I think Clarissa did. Clarissa did. When you when you uncheck this, without this being checked, student view is automatic. If I select this, it's going to restrict student result view, meaning you'll know that you submitted, but you may not get to see the results until I want you to. And then you've got some additional options here that I can choose what I want them to choose from. So under settings, you have all of these options to choose from. Pick and choose as you see fit. Keep in mind, you're going to build first, then go to settings. I highlighted in the presentation that you'll get a copy of or access to shuffle questions. If it's turned off, questions display in the order you designate in the quiz. If you have it on, then they will mix up randomly for the students. Multiple choice, multiple answer, and matching questions. So keep in mind, it's not shuffling answers for every possible choice. It's just for those 3 types. If you think it through, it makes perfect sense. Student passcode, quick view on how to do the student passcode. Make sure you know what that code is. If you forget, you can always click on that and undo it as you go. On-screen calculator, I know someone had talked about this, Marianne referenced it. This is what the 2 calculators look like. This is the basic calculator. It shows up at the top of the screen for the student with this little icon. And on scientific, same icon. It's just when you click on the calculator, you get the full-size calculator. All good to go. Now, moderating responses. Moderating responses is going to give you a couple different things. It's going to let you see your students that have taken the quiz. So I have 3 students in my class. It's going to show you the number of attempts. So you notice that Clarissa took this quiz once, Jack took it 3 times, but you'll notice the 4th one says in progress. And that's one that is being moderated currently. And then Marianne took that as well. I can see the score for each attempt. Now I had this quiz set to only calculate. So when we look at the grade book, you'll see that only the highest score is going to be captured. The time, how much time did they spend on the quiz? And then I can see the view log. And then if I want to make some adjustments. So if I take a look at what that looks like, I'm going to go to moderate. This is this live. I can click on, now full disclaimer, Clarissa doesn't watch any of the movies that I watch. So these are all superhero movies. When I click on that, I can instantly see what her score was. And I can also do a quick printout if I wanted to print that out. I can also, from this screen, I can provide feedback. So I can click on the comment here and I can add in comments. I can add in a picture if I wanted to. Whatever I wanted to do, I would click done and then hit update. So that's kind of key. The other thing that you can do is I can, interesting phrasing that they've chosen to use for this, I can fudge the points for this. So if I wanted to give her extra points, I could do that and then hit an update. So I can give bonus points if I wanted to do that. That's one way to provide feedback. It's going to allow me to do feedback on every single question that you go through. And then I can do update at the bottom. The recommendation though, and I'll go back to moderate real quick so you can take a look. I'll show you the other way to do grading, which will probably make better sense. So if I click on my quiz, go to moderate and click on attempts, I can see how each person has done. If I click on view log, I can see what they answered individually. So I can see it as they are working. Under accommodations, there were none listed, but I could go in and say, okay, I need to give additional time and adjust my timing for that. Now, interestingly enough, when Marianne was working through this, you'll notice that hers still says in progress. I can go in and I can see where she is on this, but as the teacher, I've given her enough time. She's sitting in the back reading her Harry Potter books. So I'm going to hit submit this attempt because she's done. And as the teacher, I'm going to hit submit manually. And it lets me know that she has completed. So when I go back to moderate, it tells me here's what she has and she's good to go. Your moderate options are also on the very end. And I can click on that. And here's where I can adjust how many additional attempts do I want her to have? Do I want to give time adjustments? But maybe I just want to say reopen. So I can reopen that for her and she could continue to take the quiz or the assessment because it depends on how you're using this. Keep in mind, I can also filter, show everybody, ones with no attempts left, who's in progress, who's submitted. So if I just want to see who is still in progress, it's going to let me know who is in progress and who is not. So let me undo Marianne, put her back in progress. If you have a larger class than 3, that may be a little more relevant for you. And I can just see a quick scan who's still working on this. So the moderate button lets you see a lot of different things as you're going. So you can see how everyone's doing. And then you can get a quick snapshot of where everyone is. So your moderate in the presentation, giving you that information as well. Walk through how to go through and make those adjustments as you're going. Quiz availability dates still apply when moderating a quiz. If the until date passes before a student completes an extra attempt or extended time is given, any progress and the quiz closes, the quiz will still close if the student's attempt has not expired. So just be aware that the dates still fall into play when you're setting this up for your students. So now we're going to take a look at, that was taking a look at moderating and settings. So now we want to take a look at giving feedback and reports. So 2 different ways. If you've been with us for our speed grader works right with this. The nice part about this is scores are already done. So if you've created this the way that we walked you through, your scores are all going to be done. Then all you need to do is go back in and add your comments. It's 2 different types of feedback that you're going to give. Your overall feedback, you can add an attachment if you want to. Maybe it's the rubric you want to have included, an exemplar example. You can add your media, or you can do speech to text. On the feedback per item, so for each individual item, you can put a comment, but then you'll need to click done and then scroll to the bottom and do update. So let's take a look at what that looks like. So I'm going to hit return. And instead of going to quizzes this time, I'm going to go to grades. Now remember, we recommended that you have everything, your naming convention. So I've got it named the way that I wanted to, JLV Superhero Quiz, to make sure it didn't confuse it with anyone else's superhero quiz. And I'm going to click on the quiz. And I'm going to click on Speed Grader in the upper right-hand corner. Speed Grader opens. These are my 2 comments. So I know Clarissa's overall score was a 25%. And here's my overall comment that I gave her earlier today. You need to spend more time watching superhero movies. So that's my overall. And maybe I'm going to put an attachment and a link to my Vudu account so that she can watch her movies. Additionally, underneath of each question, I have the option to click the little comment, its little discussion logo. I can click on that and I can add my comments in and hit done. Look a little bit further down, the second one down, who is not a member of the Avengers, and she selected correctly Batman. In my comment feature, keep in mind, it's just based on how you're doing it. I clicked on my comments. It's going to let me give my feedback. And what I did is I just went up to my Bitmoji bar and I just found great. I copied it, just did a quick copy paste into that comment section just to make it look a little more fun. And then I can simply hit done. If I go to the bottom, it's going to allow me to update. If I don't do the update, those comments don't go anywhere. So if I'm providing comments for individual pieces along the way, I'll do it here within SpeedGrader. On the far right, these are for my overall comments that I wanted to provide to her. Now, one of the things that I'm not going to spend a lot of time looking at today, that we'll do in a later session, is the regrade. Regrade needs a little bit more. So if all students are affected when you do a regrade, it kind of has to be adjusted a little bit more. So it's a little bit different when you do that. So be careful with regrading, especially if students have already taken the quiz. So just be aware of that part as you go. So if I scroll down, and I'm going to go ahead and fudge the scores because she only likes Marvel. I can hit 2. I can hit update. And now she's got a 3.5 out of 6 for her score. Once I hit it again, you'll notice that her score automatically adjusted over on the right-hand side in SpeedGrader. If I want to select my next student, so I'm going to go to Jack because he had multiple attempts. Take a look at the submissions that you give. So if you're asking students to get multiple attempts, mine was selected to show the highest point value or the highest score. So you'll see that one listed. But I can also go back and see earlier attempts. It's going to tell me it's not the most recent submission. And I can see where answers were given and if I wanted to give feedback and adjustments. Keep in mind that's not going to be provided for this one because I only wanted the top score. Okay, so it's nice and quick. This is going to continue to spin because remember I reopened the quiz for Marianne to take. So SpeedGrader comments for each individual or grades overall. Now, reports. This is the other part that's kind of interesting to see, and part of the reason why we switched from Harry Potter and Encanto to the superheroes. Reports, the data for the reports takes up to 24 hours for the information to display in new quizzes. So, quick little GIF that's going to show you how that looks. But we're going to go ahead and take a look. There's 2 different things that you're going to get to see: quiz and item analysis, and then outcomes analysis. When we look at our quiz analysis, you're going to see a couple different things: high and low score, mean score, the average score for the class, standard deviation, the mean elapsed time, the average time that it took for everyone to get the quiz completed, and then Cronbach's alpha. This one's really, really neat. Can't tell you what it means. So there's a link here. You can click on that and it will explain to you the coefficient alpha for test score reliability coefficient. That is not my wheelhouse, so I'm going to leave that where it is. That's the link that it gave was from Wikipedia. I didn't know what it was, so I let it go. All right, item analysis. You can look at statistics for specific questions, and then to view more, you're going to click on that arrow icon. So let's take a look at our reports. So for this particular quiz, I can click reports from in here. You'll notice it's a little bit smaller because I'm in the gradebook section. So if I go to quizzes again, just to make it a little bit easier to see. There we go. And I click on the quiz and I go down to build. And I'm doing this so that I get the full window instead of the small window encapsulated in Canvas, because some of us have older eyes than we used to have. So I'm going to click on reports. Outcome analysis, we're not using those. Remember, we weren't doing outcomes at this time. So we're going to take a look at quiz and item analysis for this particular quiz. It's going to give me the low score and the high score, what the average was, standard deviation, elapsed time, and your Crumbacks alpha. Can't help you with that one. So I can take a look at individual scores and see where all those things fall. Now when I look at item analysis, by default, it doesn't give you the extra information. So I'm going to scroll down to one a little bit further down. These characters were portrayed by difficulty, discrimination index, things of that nature. But if I click that down arrow, I can see the number of students who got between 80 and 100. So now I'm looking at individual questions. So if this was for a real class, I could be able to determine, was this question appropriate for everyone to have? What did the question look like? This, obviously, I taught well because everyone knew that Batman was not an Avenger, and it would change things. One of the things that I do want to point out, you'll notice I have 3 people in my class, but I have 5 people identified where they pulled the data analysis from. Because there were multiple attempts by Jack, that counts as multiple pieces of data for you to take a look at. So keep that part in mind. If you're allowing multiple attempts and then you're looking at your data analysis, it's going to provide you everyone's data. So if all 3 students in the class took the test 3 times, I'm going to have much larger pool of data to take a look at. So just bear with us in that. Keep that in mind as you look at that. Go to quiz, build, and then hit reports. And you're going to be looking at quiz and item analysis to be able to see what that looks like. One quick thing I want to show you from the student side, if I look at my grades, I can click on, and I gave comments earlier today, so the indicator is gone. I can click on that. It's going to tell me I had submitted my quiz. And then I'm going to have comments that were given that were overall. And I believe I turned off when we were in there before. Results are not displayed per instructor settings. So when I went into settings just now, I shut off those pieces so we can't see that. All right, some tips. The most important thing that we can tell you to do, make sure that you plan your quiz out in advance. Know what content is going to be in your quiz and the types of questions that make the most sense. So just make sure that you have that information outlined in advance and that you're not kind of just building on the fly. Someone had asked earlier, hey, do you have sample quizzes for us to pull from? Right now that doesn't exist, so you're going to be building all of that on your own. Be aware of copyright when adding images and text. You'll notice on the superhero one, I built from just shapes, the superheroes that I added there, and threw them on there just to have something to liven up that information. And make sure you know what you're going to be using as distractors as you build your quizzes, and then what adjustments you're going to make in settings. Build your quiz, make your adjustments in settings for how many, your time limit, how many times you want them to be able to retake, things like that. And then you're going to post your quiz to make it available for everyone to see. So for resources, quite a few resources. Some of them are the ones that we've always given you, but some of them are specifically for our quiz information. We've given you this getting started with quizzes information. We have the link for you to be able to have access to that. I think all that's getting dropped in. For you to be able to take a look at getting started with new quizzes. Thank you, Marianne. And that's going to give you the information from Canvas for getting started with quizzes. We showed you a very small portion of new quizzes to kind of get you in there and get started. We're hoping to be able to go in, do a little more detail with giving more time for you to practice, give some bounce back and forth, and also take a look at a couple of the other quiz features. Keep in mind, we walked you through and we added in the hotspot one. Thanks again, Marianne, for doing that, to make sure that you saw what different varieties are there. A lot of times it's easier to build them on the fly when you came in knowing, hey, this quiz, this answer question would fit for this unit that I'm doing. We've also provided you with information on the quiz overview, quick video for the instructor. Thanks again, Marianne. And then we also gave you the quiz overview for the student. So we wanted to make sure that you had access to those 3 different quiz resources beyond the session that we presented to you for today. All right, I'm going to hop back over and see where we are. Survey, thank you. It's tricky making sure everything's out there. So the session survey just got posted in the chat window. So make sure that you click on the survey. We have, I don't look at questions during the presentation. So if you've had questions, hopefully they've been getting answered. We've had a solid team of people running through the questions for today. Please make sure you complete the survey for today. That is posted in the chat. Marianne has posted in there twice for us today. So make sure you go ahead and do this. So, oh, Claire's already answered. When you go to retake the quiz, I'll show that for you real quick. So I built my quiz. Here's my superhero quiz. When I go to settings, I want them to be able to retake the quiz. That option is listed here under allow multiple attempts. If I click on that, again, score to keep, highest, average, latest, or first. So I'm going to say latest this time. It's going to give me a warning because I've already taken the quiz. But again, you would have done this in advance. And I can say unlimited. They can do as many times as they want. Or maybe I just want to give 2 tries, but then I want there to be 2 days in between their attempts. So that's going to make sure that you have that option for some review and retest for your students. Keep in mind, the recording and the presentation will be available on the T3 website. We have to wait for it to process, and then that will get posted out and make it available for you. If there's nothing further, have a great night tonight. We thank you for joining us for our new quizzes presentation. If you have questions, reach out. bit.ly/T3PGCPS. That's how you access recordings and information once that gets posted. Otherwise, have a great night. It's early in the week. Boom. Thanks for joining us for Canvas Assessing Student Understanding with Canvas Quizzes. Have a great night and a great rest of the week. Good night, everyone.